Well, we have the chance of some severe thunderstorms later today, especially east of the Twin Cities. Muggy the next couple of days, and the smoke should improve as we head into the end of the week, but heat returns early next week. Unhealthy air quality all across southern Minnesota here through the day Wednesday. We still have the air quality alert through midnight tonight. Should improve quite a bit tomorrow as winds shift and we see some different air moving in from the west versus the south. We've kind of been seeing this back and forth of the smoke because we've got high pressure centered over northern Indiana. Air flows clockwise around high pressure, but this was west of us the last couple of days. So that pushed in the air from the northeast, then kind of pushed it south of us yesterday and then brought it back in on the backside today, if that makes sense. So kind of pinwheeling around the region. Worst air quality though around Chicago, southern Wisconsin, Milwaukee, but unhealthy across southern Minnesota too as that smoke has kind of returned. But all this, as that whole system moves east, the weather starts to flow west to east, should improve our surface air quality drastically over the next 24 hours. The other thing we're looking for today is the potential for severe weather. We've got a slight risk of severe weather, level 2 out of 5, basically the east metro into Wisconsin. Not so much a tornado threat, but a hail and wind threat is what we're looking at today. And we saw a similar scenario play out yesterday with this same area across South Dakota. A lot of hail reports, quite a bit of wind reports, and a lot of substantial wind reports across Kansas and Oklahoma, as was forecast yesterday. That did pan out. And interestingly, we've talked about this before, the lackluster severe weather season compared to last year at this time. This is the least active severe weather season since, you got to go all the way back to 1995. 40% of our warnings issued this season all came from just Saturday. So we have been seeing some, but not quite a bit just yet. Now there's a very narrow window where there's going to be enough energy or instability for severe weather, basically for the Twin Cities east. So the storms are going to kind of develop on top of the Twin Cities. That's why the severe threat's going to be mainly just east of us. When we look at the supercell index, same thing. Here's this evening, and then everything diminishes pretty rapidly. So we're going to look for not only a small area for that risk of severe weather, but small area in terms of the time scale too. When we looked at the updraft tracks forecast by this particular short-term model, it's mainly western Wisconsin. We're looking at the potential for some of those stronger storms. Can't rule out maybe one or two in the east metro initially, but mainly as we head into the evening hours and further to the east. So here's 4 o'clock, storms start to pop. More might build in behind that, and then we kind of see a cluster of storms develop into a line, and this is when we could see some high wind gusts across central Wisconsin. And then tomorrow, still the isolated chance of a thunderstorm, but probably not as widespread as the moisture today. And it looks like mainly the northern half of the state, a couple of isolated or spotty thunderstorms with even more isolated chance further south. And then we're into a dry period. So forecast rainfall because those storms will develop right on top of us. Not a lot of rainfall in the Twin Cities, but as you go east, those storms could produce quite a bit of rain. And we've been seeing a decent rainfall as well for northeastern Minnesota today. These showers have been going much of the day. So this is last week's drought monitor. Tomorrow morning, we get an updated one. It'll be interesting to see what changes. I bet Duluth changes. Was put into the severe drought category last week, but they've been getting some pretty good rain. In fact, last weekend, they saw between 2 to 3 inches of rain in Duluth. This is the last 7 days rainfall. Of course, it was a widespread rainfall, the most widespread rain we've seen so far in several weeks. Compare that to the 7-day period before that, June 13th to the 20th, where it was all very isolated and localized, which has been really the story through May and most of June. So last week's rainfall may at least put the pause on the expansion of the drought. It might even take out a couple lucky spots that were put into the drought, or at least the severe drought category last week. Takes a lot, though, to pull yourself out of a drought situation midsummer. Low to mid 80s today. We'll look for those thunderstorms to pop up again, kind of developing on top of the Twin Cities late this afternoon, evening. And then Thursday, more isolated thunder possible. We're in for a dry stretch after that. It's going to get hotter too. Upper 80s and even near 90 by Sunday. Should be into the low 90s. Monday, 4th of July looks hot, around 90. Might see a few thunderstorms though, especially later in the day on Tuesday. And we do get a break from the muggier air. It looks like drier air moves in here for Friday and Saturday.